you're supposed to, but I will give them to you guys in the order that apparently you're supposed to watch them in. Although I heard it doesn't matter, and it didn't matter to me. But before we get into it, you know the drill, you know the deal. Gotta do some channel maintenance, some channel hygiene. So if you're new here, welcome to my nonsense. If you're old here, welcome back. Oh geez, if you're new here, please consider hitting subscribe. And if you're old here, go double check, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like. If you like, leave a comment. It could be anything related to the video. It can just be a hello, a few emojis, whatever, as long as it's cool and respectful. Hit the notification bell. As always, I'll link my tip jars down yonder in the description box. No pressure whatsoever, but every $1 or $2 helps. That's what allows me to continue to make content. Also, you are invited to my Patreon. I know not everybody can come, but you can't say you weren't invited. The link is down below, and I have been posting a lot for August, so go check it out. Now, apparently, the order that you're supposed to watch these is, and don't quote me, but from what I gather, is X, then Pearl, then Maxxine, and even that still doesn't totally make sense to me. But I think that X came out, and so then they went back and made an origin story about some of the stuff that was happening in X. And then most recently was Maxxine with 3 X's, triple X, because these are like based on the corn industry, kind of. Yeah. So Maxxine goes back to like right after, well, not right after X, but like a decade after X or something, because X is the late 70s, 1979, and Maxxine is like mid to late 80s, I believe. So X being the first one, I'm gonna read the like breeze over, and then I'm gonna read the plot and spoil it for you guys, okay? This is just Wikipedia, and it's not new, so, but if you don't like spoilers, now's your time to. X, the 2022 American slasher film written, directed, and produced and edited by Ty West. It stars Mia Goth in dual roles, a young woman named Maxxine and an elderly woman named Pearl. So she does like a nutty professor. She's 2 different people in this movie. The film also stars Jenna Ortega, Martin Henderson, Brittany Snow, who I have not seen in forever, and she looks great. Like, I was like, that's Brittany Snow. Crazy. Owen Campbell, Stephen Urey, and Scott Mescudi. Set in 1979, the film follows a cast and crew who gathered to make a corny graphic, okay, you get it, film on an elderly couple's rural Texas property, but find themselves threatened by the homicidal couple. So, now we'll get into like the real spoilery part, and then I'll tell you like how I felt about it. But it is an A24 announced X, blah blah blah. Oh, the plot, here we go. In 1979, police officers arrive on a lonely farm in rural Texas to find numerous dead bodies wrapped in bags. They enter the farmhouse and find something shocking in the basement. So, as it opens, you already know that a lot of these characters are going to meet their demise, because that's how it opens. It shows you that. 24 hours earlier, aspiring adult film star Maxxine is on a trip to shoot a corny graphic film with her producer boyfriend Wayne, fellow burlesque dancer Bobby Lynn, Marine Corps veteran Jackson, director RJ, and RJ's quiet girlfriend Lorraine. Lorraine is Jenna Ortega, and Maxxine is Mia Goth. And Pearl and the group arrives at farm owned by Howard and Pearl. So, Pearl, you're hearing about Pearl right now, which is the second movie, the origin story. An elderly couple who have a guest house they rented out for the shoot. Howard disapproves of the group, but Wayne excuses this due to not informing Howard of their intentions. While Bobby, Lynn, and Jackson act out the scene, Pearl invites Maxxine into the farmhouse and expresses an unusual fixation on her. As Maxxine looks exactly like Pearl when she was young. And I don't know how they do this because, it's the same actress playing both, but Howard returns home and Pearl rushes Maxxine out, urging her to keep it a secret. Maxxine returns to the guest house and shoots a scene with Jackson in the barn. As Pearl secretly watches and imagines herself in Maxxine's spot later, Pearl attempts to seduce Howard. But he turns her down, and I'm telling you, I said I was going to tell you how I feel at the end, but I'm just going to tell you throughout. It is so hard to watch that. Like, you feel so sorry for Pearl. But they're like 100. They're like 100. And she wants to get it on. And Howard's like, I can't because I'm old and I'm on meds and stuff. And she just looks so sad and rejected. And he looks like he's just wishes he could. It's weird. And it's horrifying. And it evokes, I don't know, just weird feelings. And so I think that as a horror, it does its job because you do feel just all these uncomfortable feelings as you watch it. Howard turns her down, citing his heart problems. That night, Lorraine asks to participate in the shoot, upsetting RJ. So Lorraine, the whole beginning, Jenna Ortega, is like kind of mad that her boyfriend took her on this. She's part of his crew, like his filming crew. It's just him and her. And she's like, I can't believe we're doing this. And he's like, we need the money and just let these people do their thing. And so she's just kind of got an attitude the whole time until she gets interested, and then she wants to participate too. And her boyfriend's like, what the F? And she's like, well, you brought me here. And so that night, Lorraine asked to participate in the shoot, upsetting RJ. When everyone is asleep, angry RJ attempts to drive away and strand the group at the farm, but finds Pearl in the driveway after he rebuffs her advances. So Pearl comes on to RJ like she'll just take anything she can get at this point. She's got that dog in her, okay? After he rebuffs her advances, Pearl stabs him to death. Like, you ain't gonna reject me. At that point, she's like a femcel. Acting out. Noticing RJ is missing, Lorraine and Wayne go look for him in the barn. Wayne steps on a large nail and is killed by Pearl with a pitchfork. Meanwhile, Howard invites Lorraine into the house, claiming Pearl has gone missing. She asks Lorraine to retrieve a flashlight from the basement. When she goes down, Howard locks the door, and she discovers a naked male corpse hanging from the ceiling. How these old people can just grab a corpse and hang it from the ceiling, I don't know, because they can't even get it on. So how are they? It's just horror magic. Sometimes you gotta suspend your disbelief and just call it horror cinematic magic, okay? Howard goes to the guest house and asks Jackson to help find Pearl. When they split up to scout the lake's perimeter, Jackson finds a car submerged in the water. After failing to draw Jackson into the water with his flashlight, Howard confronts him and shoots him in the chest. Meanwhile, Pearl sneaks into the guest house, undresses, and climbs into the bed with Maxxine caressing her body, who awakens in horror to find Pearl lying next to her, waking Bobby Lynn. Back in the house, Lorraine breaks through the basement door with a hatchet, but Howard breaks her fingers. Bobby Lynn finds Pearl standing on the lake's edge and tries to help her. Pearl insults Bobby Lynn and pushes her into the water, where an alligator kills her. And this alligator, I don't know how long alligators live, but it might be the same alligator that pops up in the no, it couldn't be. How long do alligators live? I don't know. Anyway, the alligator pops up and attacks Bobby Lynn or whatever. Pearl and Howard reunite and enter the guest house, where they have relations. They finally he ignores his health advisory and they have relations, and it shows them at their ripe old age. isolate themselves to protect against the Spanish flu pandemic. Pearl aspires to be a chorus girl or a film star, which Ruth disapproves of and chafes under the isolation. Pearl also shows signs of psychopathy. She abuses her father in secret and kills animals, which she feeds to an alligator she nicknamed Theta. Does she abuse her father? I don't remember. I mean, it says she does, so she must, but I can't remember her, like, slapping him around or anything. Not in the beginning. How she ends up doing horrible stuff. I don't know. One day while visiting town, Pearl meets a projectionist who takes a liking to her. After returning to the farm, Pearl continues to show signs of mental disturbance as she dances with a scarecrow in a cornfield, and she, like, dry humps it. It's pretty weird, and it gives you, again, those awkward, like, what am I watching? What am I watching? Am I supposed to be watching this? During supper, Ruth berates Pearl for her behavior and withholds her food. So the mom is not quite right either, but also I think the mom sees some signs of psychopathy in her daughter, but you never withhold food. But what I'm saying, this was back in 1918, like, they did some weird stuff back then. You kind of, after you finish the movie up, the whole movie, you're like, Ruth is terrible, and she is, but you're like, wait a second, was she, like, trying to hold Pearl, like, real tight because she knew if she let her off this leash that bad things would happen, you know? Pearl hears from Mitzi, her wealthy sister-in-law, of an audition to find new dancers for a troupe around state, and envisions her ticket out of spending her life living on the farm and having to care for her father. She later visits this projectionist who shows her an illicit stage film, A Free Ride. Is that a real stage film? Like, did they pull from the archives of old pornography? I don't know, because it's highlighted, so I don't know. And encourages her to pursue her dreams. Pearl comments that she cannot abandon her family and says if only they would just die. And you can see the projectionist be like, wait, what did she just say? That was bizarre. And she doesn't reel it back the way that a normal person would if they blurted out some crazy, you know, she's definitely odd. That night, Ruth and Pearl get into an argument over dinner, and she reveals that she knows about Pearl visiting the movies. Pearl confesses she wants to audition and asks for Ruth's permission, to which she declares Pearl as her biggest failure. An altercation erupts, during which Pearl shoves her mother against the hearth, causing her dress to catch fire, and as she burns, Pearl pours boiling water onto her to douse the flames, and then drags her to the basement while leaving her father alone in the room. She then flees to the theater where she has, you know, relations with the projectionist. She runs out to go see this guy that she met. And the whole time, she is still, like, hoping that her husband comes back from war, but you don't really get a lot of memos back then, so you don't know what's going on. But in the meantime, she's got herself a little side piece. I mean, I think this guy was just, he was just kind of a dog himself, but the following morning, the projectionist drives Pearl home to prepare for the audition. However, he is disturbed by her sudden agitated behavior, as well as the sight of a rotting pig that her mother and what did I just walk in on? Now, since I watched this one, I watched Maxxine, and then I watched this one, I was like, well, is she gonna, like, kill him? Like, is he gonna try to leave? Well, he must not have tried to leave, because you see